What can this ancient philosophy teach us about life? Stoics believed that all human beings have a common essence, a rational nature that sets us apart from other creatures. This rational nature is what allows us to understand the world and live by virtue. But what does it mean to live according to virtue? For the Stoics, virtue is the excellence of reason and consists of living according to reason, following ethical and moral principles. It is a way of living in harmony with the universe, following the laws of nature and cosmic order. But how can we know what these ethical and moral principles are? Stoics believed that they could be found in nature, observing the laws of the universe and reflecting on what is natural and what is not. They argued that nature is governed by laws that are unchanging and that everything that happens in nature is for the good of the whole. For the Stoics, virtue consists in living according to nature, following these universal laws. It means acting wisely, courageously, fairly, and self-controlled in all circumstances. But why should we live up to virtue? Stoics believed that this allows us to achieve happiness, which is the ultimate goal of life. However, happiness for the Stoics is not the pleasure or satisfaction of material desires, but rather a sense of inner peace, balance, and harmony with the universe. Thus, to achieve happiness, it is necessary to live according to virtue, cultivating reason, practicing self-reflection, and maintaining a long-term perspective on life. This means that we must learn to deal with the difficulties and challenges that life presents us with, accepting them with serenity and wisdom. The Stoics believed that life is like a game that we must play wisely and humbly, without attaching ourselves to anything that is ephemeral or transitory. Life is brief and uncertain, and we must learn to value what is essential, such as kindness, honesty, justice, and truth. For Stoics, life is an opportunity to learn and grow, to practice virtue and become a better human being. We must be open to the lessons that life presents us and learn from our mistakes and failures, without letting ourselves be overwhelmed by them. One of the main Stoic practices is meditation, which consists of reflecting on our thoughts and emotions, observing them with distance and objectivity. In addition to meditation, the Stoics also valued the practice of resignation, which means accepting things as they are and not letting ourselves be affected by what we cannot control. This does not mean that we must resign ourselves to injustice or oppression, but that we must learn to distinguish between what is in our control and what is not. Stoics believed that what is in our control is just our own mind and our choices, while the rest is beyond our power. Thus, we must learn to deal with the things we cannot control in a wise and calm way, without letting ourselves be affected by them. This attitude of resignation is important because it helps us to cultivate inner serenity and peace of mind. When we worry excessively about things we can't control, we end up stressing ourselves out and making ourselves unhappy. Therefore, we must learn to accept things as they are and to find joy and satisfaction in the things that are in our control. But what about free will? The Stoics believed that although human nature is determined by a host of biological and environmental factors, we still have the power to choose how we respond to these factors. We can choose to follow reason and virtue, or we can choose to follow our desires and passions. So, even though human nature is limited and determined, we still have the power to choose how we want to live our lives. We can choose to act wisely, courageously, and fairly, or we can choose to act selfishly and harm others. Stoics believe that virtue is the only thing that is really valuable in life and that all other things are insignificant in comparison. This means that we must be willing to sacrifice our own interests for the common good and virtue. Thus, for Stoics, life is an opportunity to cultivate virtue and become a better human being. We must be willing to face life's challenges and difficulties with serenity and wisdom, without letting ourselves be overwhelmed by them. In summary, the Stoics believed that human nature is rational and that we should live according to virtue, following the ethical and moral principles that we can find in nature. We must learn to deal with life's difficulties and challenges with serenity and wisdom, accepting them as part of life. Life is brief and uncertain, and we must learn to value what is essential, such as kindness, honesty, justice, and truth. We must be willing to sacrifice our own interests for the common good and virtue, and be open to the lessons that life presents to us. The practice of meditation, resignation, and self-reflection are powerful tools to help us cultivate the inner serenity and peace of mind that are fundamental to Stoicism. These practices help us to recognize what is in our control and what is not, to accept things as they are, and to find joy and satisfaction in the things that are in our power. Stoicism is not just an abstract philosophy or an intellectual theory, but a practical and concrete way of life. The Stoic is not someone who just talks about virtue and wisdom, but someone who practices them in his everyday life. Therefore, the Stoics valued the importance of constant practice and repetition of their ethical and moral principles. Virtue is not something we can achieve once and for all, but something we must cultivate daily in our actions and thoughts. Thus, for Stoics, life is a journey of self-improvement and personal growth, in which we must learn to deal with life's difficulties and challenges with wisdom, courage, and justice. We must always be willing to learn and grow, recognizing that we will never reach perfection, but that we can always strive to become a little better every day. Another important idea of Stoicism is the importance of loving and caring for others. Stoics believed that all human beings are equal in dignity and that we should treat others with respect and compassion. We must be willing to help others in their needs and to stand up for justice and truth, even if it means sacrificing our own interests. This idea is closely linked to the concept of cosmopolitanism, which is the idea that all human beings are part of the same global community and that we must work together to build a more just and supportive world. For the Stoics, ethics is not limited to personal relationships, but extends to all our relationships with the world and with nature. Thus, Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches us to find meaning and purpose in our lives, to cultivate inner serenity and peace of mind, and to value the importance of virtue, justice, and love for others. Although it developed over 2,000 years ago, Stoicism continues to be a source of inspiration and guidance for many people today. In conclusion, Stoicism teaches us that human nature is rational and that we should live according to virtue, following the ethical and moral principles that we can find in nature. We must learn to deal with life's difficulties and challenges with serenity and wisdom, accepting them as part of life. Life is short and uncertain, and we must learn to value it and make the most of it by nurturing meaningful relationships and developing our talents and abilities. We should pursue happiness and fulfillment while recognizing that they are not an end in themselves, but a byproduct of virtue and wisdom. Stoicism has influenced many people throughout history, from ancient philosophers and statesmen to more recent writers and artists. Stoicism continues to be a source of inspiration and guidance for those seeking a more meaningful and fulfilling life. So who are we, according to the Stoics? We are rational human beings, capable of attaining virtue and wisdom. We are able to live according to the ethical and moral principles that we can find in nature and in our own conscience. We are able to find meaning and purpose in our lives by cultivating inner serenity and peace of mind. We must remember that we are mortal and that our lives are short and uncertain. Therefore, we should enjoy every moment of life, cultivating meaningful relationships, developing our talents and abilities, and pursuing virtue and wisdom. And we must do all of this with a sense of purpose and meaning, recognizing the importance of justice, compassion, and love for others. In summary, Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches us to live according to human nature, cultivating virtue, wisdom, and love for others. By following these principles, we can find meaning and purpose in our lives, achieve inner serenity and peace of mind, and contribute to a more just and caring world. I hope this reflection on Stoicism has been helpful and inspiring. Remember that Stoicism is not just an abstract philosophy, but a practical, concrete way of life. We must be willing to constantly practice the ethical and moral principles we learned from the Stoics, recognizing that we will never reach perfection but that we can always strive to become a little better every day. If you are interested in Stoicism and want to deepen your knowledge of this philosophy, I recommend that you read the works of ancient Stoic philosophers such as Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. In addition, there are many modern books that explore Stoicism in an accessible and practical way, such as A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine and The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. It can also be helpful to connect with the Stoic community by participating in online or in-person study or discussion groups. These communities can offer support and guidance as you practice and learn more about Stoicism. Finally, remember that Stoic philosophy is a way of life and constant practice. It is not enough just to read about philosophy or listen to lectures. It is necessary to put into practice its teachings and work to incorporate virtue, wisdom, and love for others in our daily lives. I hope this reflection on Stoicism has been helpful and inspiring to you. If you enjoyed this video or would like to share your own thoughts on Stoicism, feel free to leave a comment below. And if you liked the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to receive more videos about philosophy, self-knowledge, and personal development. Thanks for watching.